Warrior Super Edition Firestar's Quest by Aaron Hunter, Chapter 15. Abandoning his prey, Firestar rushed to her side and looked down. The side of the gorge sloped down sleepily to a narrow, bone-dry valley strewn with the reddish rocks. There wasn't even a trickle of water. His heart began to pound. "We must have passed the place where SkyClan camp," he mused to Sandstorm. "The gray and white cat told me to follow the river." Sandstorm's tail lashed. "Mousestar, we'd better climb down and head along back to Gorge." Firestar took the lead as they climbed carefully down the steep cliff. Loose pebbles skidded beneath their paws. Firestar tried not to think about the slipping all the way down in the flaming tangles of legs and tail, ending up broken in the bottom. He tried to slip lightly, picking his way from one jutting the rock to the next and using his tail for balance. By now, the sun was high in the sky, and the rocky side of the gorge reflected the heat. The hot ground scorched Firestar's paws. Panting, he felt as if his fur was about to burst into flame. It disturbed a lizard backing on a rock. It was waist down and cracked when the shadow fell on it. "At least we won't starve," he commented, pointing at the creature with its tail. Sandstorm wrinkled her nose. "Only shadow clones have these scaly things," she mewed. "I have to be really hungry before I try it." At last, they reached the bottom of the gorge and began padding back the way they'd come, weaving across the boulders. Firestar's palm pricked. Nothing grew this part of the gorge except for the few clumps of fairy grass and stunted bushes. There was no shelter, no underground to conceal the cats from hostile eyes. "It's a good thing we're not black or white," Sandstorm murmured. "At least our pelts will keep us hidden." Firestar nodded tensely. "Stay alert. We don't know what can be lurking down here." As the sun skidded down the sky, the shadow of the cliff felt cooler. He began to make out the sign of water ahead. He took a deep breath, detecting the faint traces of moisture in the dry air. Sandstorm's tail went up. "I can hear the river!" Wishing for the soft ground of the forest instead of the sharp pebbles, Firestar picked up the pace until he and Sandstorm was bounding among the rocks. Rounding a bend, he stopped dead when he saw a pile of reddish boulders blocking the gorge. The lapping of water was louder, but he couldn't see it. He scrambled up the pile of rocks, claws scrambling in the clumping stone, and peered cautiously over the top. Directly below him, water flowed smoothly out of the gaping black hole into a rock pool before winding away the gorge and out of sight. Sandstorm clambered up beside Firestar. "So, this is where the river begins." Firestar glanced around, half expecting to see the pale sharp of SkyClan warriors watching him from the cliff. There were no cats in sight, but halfway up the sides of the gorge he spotted several caves, dark, narrow openings tucked underneath the cliff. Narrow trails zigzagged across the cliff face, leading from one cave to the next. Firestar remembered his dream of walking among SkyClan warriors in the sandy cave. The deputy's word acted on his smile. "This is our home now. You know where to go." "We are here," he told Sandstorm quietly. "You think SkyClan live in those caves?" Sandstorm shook the beast. "You're climbing up and down the cliff every day?" "I think so." Sandstorm rose to her paws. "Okay, but I'm not going to look until we have a drink. My mouth feels dry the gorge." She began to pick her way down the pile of boulders on the other side, following the river until she reached a pool where the river flowed out. Firestar joined her as she crouched down and began to lap. The water was icy cold. It soaked through the scorched fur, and Firestar thought he would never want to stop drinking. The water flowed swiftly but without making a sound. A blue-green light sparkled under the surface, but farther under a heap of boulders, everything was dark. The cave gagged like an open mouth, slightly waiting. Firestar shivered and sat up, shaking droplets from her whiskers. Sandstorm was stirring some of the dry mud beside the pool. "Look at that," she mewed. In the mud were the clear paw prints of a cat. "It could be a rope just popping through," Forrester pointed out. Or even an adventurous kitty pet. Sandstorm sniffed. Very adventurous for a kitty pet. Let's have a look at the cave. The side of the gorge was even steeper than where they climbed down. Forrester struggled to keep his footing among the loose pebbles, convinced he was about to slip. After the first few tailings, he left the shadows behind, and the blazing heat struck him like a blow. Dust puffed up under his paws, making him trusty as ever. But when he reached at the first of the trails, the going became easier. It looked at the cliff face and scrapped the smooth, flattened trail that led back and forth to the gentle slope, connecting each of the caves. Forrester headed for the highest entrance, which also looked to be the biggest. He pressed close to the cliff, avoiding the drop on the other side. Sandstone was just behind them, puffing her breath in the sigh of relief as they followed into the level floor of the cave. Forrester stared around him. He had been here before. He recounted several times the sign of his den at the reclined camp. Inside it was cool and shadowy, with sheer walls and a sandy floor. It was sheltered from rain or blistering heat, and it would be difficult for enemies to reach. For a few heartbeats, he stood still, imagining how the skyclane cats would have felt when they reached the refuge. They had been joyful to find shelter, or wary danger lurking in the shadows. Had they longed for camps in the forest, or were they too tired to care? For a moment, they were all around him again. He could hear them muse and feel their pelts brushing against his own. "What do you think of those?" Sandstorm asked, pointing with her tail a few shallows scraping the floor and back of the cave. "Filled with moss and bracken. They make a pretty good nest." "Yes, but where would they find moss and bracken around here?" Forrester asked. "I didn't see any growing in the gorge." "There might be some on the cliffs." Forrester nodded, tasting the air again. The cave was full of animal scents. He could discern mouse and vole and even cat, but none of them smelled fresh. He padded forward, nosing on the scraps Sandstorm had spotted. Only the memory of his dream assured him that they were nests, not just natural lips on the cave floor. "Let's go and explore some of the other caves." Forrester headed for the entrance, only to stop dead for tailings aside. His heart started to thump again. "Look at that!" he whispered. At one of the entrances, narrow column rock attached one side to the cave wall, thickly scored down the roller half with a mark of claws. Hardly daring to breathe, Forrester petted across, raised a forepaw, and placed his own claws on the mark. "A perfect fit!" Sandstorm breathed. She was right. Forrester's claws slipped in the mark as she made himself. He shivered to think that his paw was resting where those other cats had been so long ago. "Look at those other marks!" Sandstorm padded up to the stone trunk and let one paw against it, close to the bottom. For the first time, Forrester noticed some tiny scratches running sideways across the trunk. "Maybe kids made them." Sandstorm looked doubtful. "Why would they scratch crosswire instead of up and down?" Forrester shrugged. "Why do kids do anything? Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is the place," he mewed. It's suddenly more convincing than ever. This is where Skyclub made their camp. Sandstorm's green eyes glinted. "Now where are they now?" They spent the rest of the day exploring the other caves. Forrester thankfully kept distorting more of the claw marks. The proof all the cave had been inhabited by cats. "Look," Sandstorm murmured next cave visitor, resting her tail tip gently against the wall. "Nothing but tiny marks. This must have been the nursery." Forrester glanced back at the entrance. A boulder blocked most of it, hiding from the hostile eyes, keeping it cool in the blazing sunlight. The kids and their mother will have been safe here. The Sandstorm faded farther into the cave, her pale ginger pelt blurred in the shadows. "There are bigger scraps on the floor too," she reported. "Just the right size for a queen and her litter." Further down the cliff face, they found a smaller cave that might have a den for the apprentices, the medicine cat, and the clan leader. Finally, they returned to the first cave. "I guess this was the warrior's den," Forrester knew, not wanting to bring up his dream. "There's plenty of space, and there's near the top of the cliff. They'd be able to protect the rest of the clan as foxes or two-legs try to get down." Sandstorm thoughtfully tasted the air. "There's a cat set here," she announced. "Not fresh, but it's always smelled so far. I think at least one cat was here in the last moon or so." Forrester paddled slowly around the cave and spotted something white glimmering twisted between a boulder and the wall. He poked upon the gap and drew a heap of tiny white bones. Mouse or vole? Commented the sandster who had come to have a look. You're right, cats have been here, but it doesn't look like they are permanently. And if they did, the scent will be fresh. I wonder when they come. Sandster didn't sound as expected an answer, and Firestar didn't give her one. By now, the sun had gone down and the gorge was filled with shadows. They climbed the last few tailings to the cliff top, hunting among the bushes along the edge. When they had eaten, they returned to Warrior's Den for the night. I'm so exhausted I could sleep for a moon, Sandster sighed, turning around one of the shallow scrubs and curling up with her tail up her nose. Her steady breathing even told Firestar that she was asleep. She sat beside her, gazing around the cave and picturing the way it had been in the stream, worm-breathing bodies in nets of moss and bracken, and one cat away when she was on watch. He blinked, and the cats vanished. Pale silver light from the moon washed into the cave, lapping at his fur, but there was no sound, no flicker of play or plight as it stirred the shadows. Did skyclaws scatter too long ago? He wondered. Is there any hope of finding their descent? Or have I come too late?